Dust hangs in the heat. The white Nile glints like a blade. A fish eagle cries. The grass holds its breath. Welcome to Uganda. Mist-draped rainforests, golden savannas, and winding river valleys. Among the wildlife, competition for the last meal rules the dry season. As pools shrink to mirrors, every mouth negotiates the same ration. Mountain gorillas haunt the clouded highlands. On the plains, elephants, buffalo, antelope, and lions set the rhythm. Along the river, hippos bask as crocodiles patrol with ancient patience. Here, nothing is wasted. Timing is everything. In this journey, we'll see lions test herds, hyenas and jackals press their luck, and vultures with marabou storks settle the final arguments. Tell us in the comments where you're watching from and who you'd back when hunger calls. Among the dry season dust, when the grass is shaved to stubble and every mouth counts the minutes to rain, the zebra still steps forward, bold as a billboard. Black and white stripes ripple like heat waves, an optical illusion that can make a hungry lion misjudge the shot. This is the season of last chances, the final green blades, the last safe sip, and the zebra knows the rules. Keep moving, keep together, and never blink at the edge of a water hole. Meet the plains zebra of Uganda's Kidipo Valley and the rolling grasslands around Lake Mburo. Iconic, yes, but here iconic has a job to do. In a place where topi, cob, and buffalo all contest the buffet, zebra are the pioneers of rough forage, the ones who turn brittle stems into momentum for the whole herd. And in the competition for the last meal, their secret weapon is teamwork painted in stripes. Look closely, and it's a walking illusion. Each zebra wearing a unique barcode the universe forgot to scan. The coat is short, sleek, and high contrast, a graphic masterpiece sculpted by evolution to dazzle motion-reading predators and, as research suggests, frustrate biting flies that can drain health in a lean year. A stiff, upright mane runs from poll to withers like a comb set to dramatic. Eyes sit high for panoramic views, ears swivel like satellite dishes. Beneath the pattern is an athlete. Deep chest for oxygen, long cannon bones for stride, and hooves that turn dusty plains into racetracks. A big gut? That's not a flaw. It's a fermentation chamber. As hindgut fermenters with an enlarged cecum and colon, zebras are built to process coarse, silica-rich grasses other grazers avoid, winning an edge when menus shrink to leftovers. Need a last-ditch defense? Those hind legs are loaded springs. A zebra's kick can rewrite a hyena's dinner plans. Day to day, they are lawnmowers with a schedule. Zebras graze at dawn and dusk, then often chew by moonlight when heat and risk allow. Their menu is mostly tough grasses, stargrass, speargrass, and the crunchy stuff that makes picky antelope sigh. When the dry wind strips the plains, they shift to more fibrous stems, seed heads, and roadside greens, using those steel wire lips to pluck anything vaguely edible. They walk a lot, kilometers at a steady, economical pace, scouting for fresh patches and clean water. Dust baths serve as both spa and parasite ejection system. Rolling paints them in a protective layer of grit. Around waterholes, their caution meter hits red. The herd cues, drinks fast, and doesn't argue about turns. One eye is always on the floating log that suddenly has teeth. In a last meal scramble with other herbivores, zebras often graze first, cropping tall, coarse grass down to a tender lawn that Topi and Cobb can then exploit, a cooperative accident that still looks like strategy. Social life is the engine that keeps Stripes alive. Most zebras travel in small harems, one dominant stallion, several mares, and their foals. The stallion is part bodyguard, part traffic warden, facing down bachelors with snorts and squeals, and herding stragglers when danger whispers. Mares bond tightly, babysit one another's foals, and move like a single thought when the alarm call pops. Foals arrive brownish-striped and wide-eyed. In the first hours, mother and calf memorize each other's pattern, voice, and smell, the world's most elegant name tag. Bachelor groups linger at the fringes, sparring and waiting for a vacancy with the enthusiasm of fans outside a sold-out show. When predators circle, the herd tightens, flanks overlap, and those stripes blur into a living glitch, making it hard to pick one target from the crowd. Ecologically, zebras are the rough-cut engineers of the savanna. By mowing coarse grasses first, they open the buffet for more selective grazers, create grazing lawns that attract a parade of species, and fertilize the ground with dung that seeds and feeds insects. Their toughness in drought keeps herbivore pressure spread across the landscape instead of collapsing into a few water holes. They are key prey for lions and hyenas, yet their vigilance and speed keep predators honest. Uganda's plains zebra are protected in parks, but across Africa they face snares, fencing, and competition with livestock. Globally, the plains zebra is listed as near threatened, a reminder that even common stripes can fade. In this final mouthful season, the zebra embodies calm courage, order in the scramble, rhythm under pressure. It's a living reminder that survival isn't only about power, it's about pattern, partnership, and the will to share the last lawn and still run tomorrow. The river looks calm until the log grows eyes. In Uganda's shrinking dry season channels, meals get scarce, tempers get shorter, and the oldest ambusher on earth sharpens its patience. When the last meal is on the table, the Nile crocodile doesn't chase it. It lets hunger come to the water's edge. This is the Nile crocodile of Uganda's rivers and lakes, from the White Nile at Murchison Falls to the Kazinga Channel in Queen Elizabeth National Park. Built like a living low-profile submarine, it waits with nostrils and eyes riding high, everything else erased by glare and shadow. Its jaws can clamp with around 5,000 psi of force, enough to turn a careless sip into a final mistake. Painted by nature in olive and bronze, the Nile crocodile wears a coat of rugged scales studded with bony plates called osteoderms. Armor that shrugs off thorns, bumps, and the occasional bad idea from a predator. A long, muscular tail supplies the horsepower, turning still water into a catapult when it needs to launch. The head is a wedge, eyes and nostrils perched on top like periscopes, so the body can remain invisible under the surface. Conical teeth grip rather than slice, and new teeth grow in to replace old ones. Nature's lifetime dental plan. A nictitating membrane works like built-in goggles, clearing vision underwater, while a palatal valve closes off the throat so it can open its mouth without drowning. Black freckles, tiny sensory organs, dot the scales, reading the slightest ripple of a hoof step upstream. Heat is managed with sun-soaked scutes, an open-mouthed gaping, a reptilian version of a radiator. Slow metabolism, a four-chambered heart, and dive-ready blood chemistry let it hold breath for long stretches. Patience is not just a virtue here, it is a physiology. Speed is optional. Timing is everything. A Nile crocodile can float like a shadow for hours or even days, staking out crossing points where zebras, antelopes, or warthogs must drink. It uses banks, overhanging reeds, and afternoon glare as camouflage. The strike is a thunderclap. Jaws snap, a body twists, and the death roll begins, using weight and water to disorient and drown. Large prey gets wedged under a snag to soften, shared or fought over later. Smaller bites are powered down with a tilt of the head and a gulp. As the sun climbs, crocodiles bask to recharge, then melt back into channels by late afternoon and dusk. In feast times, they're picky. In lean times, the menu widens. Fish, birds, carcasses drifting downriver, even a catfish unlucky enough to surface in the wrong place. And when the river thins and the buffet shrinks, competition spikes. Crocs jaw clap, tail sweep, and shoulder in for position over a last sliver of meat, while marabou, storks, catfish, and bold monitor lizards circle like opportunists at a clearance sale. Crocodiles are solitary strategists with a social rulebook. Big males own the best basking spots and first rights to carcasses. Size settles most arguments before they start. Displays do the talking, deep bellows that make water shimmy, head slaps that say mine, and arched postures that measure confidence in centimeters. Truces form when the prize is big enough to share, break when it isn't. Courtship is quieter than the feeding scrum, a rumbling duet, a brush of snout and a brief, careful tangle. Females mound nests of sand and vegetation above floodline. Temperature decides whether hatchlings are more sons or daughters. After roughly 3 months, the young chirp from their eggs, and mother becomes a gentle monster, carrying them in her jaws to the shallows and guarding a creche with a vigilance that would make a bouncer proud. Nile monitors raid nests. Older crocs can be a danger too. In the nursery, survival is a numbers game, and mom tips the odds. As apex predators, Nile crocodiles redraw the map of behavior for anything that drinks, wades, or swims. They cull weak and unwary animals, clean up carrion, and shuttle nutrients from land to water with every meal, feeding whole scavenger guilds, storks, catfish, even the microbes that turn scraps back into life. Eggs and hatchlings feed monitors and mongoose, a reminder that even a king pays into the food web. Listed as least concern, overall, they still face snaring, habitat loss, and conflict at busy fishing banks. Uganda's protected waterways and community programs keep the balance workable. Space for crocs, safety for people. In a season when the river holds only one last meal, the Nile crocodile is the patient handwriting at the bottom of nature's contract. Timing decides. It embodies the spirit of endurance, silent, relentless, and utterly at home where hunger meets water. Dust lifts off the savannah like breath from a sleeping giant. Then the thunder starts, the hooves of Cape Buffalo rolling like distant drums under a copper sky. In a realm where teeth write the rules, these herbivores answer with a wall of horn and a plan. Meet the Cape buffalo, Synchorus kaffir, the heavyweight grazer of Africa's floodplains, woodlands, and open savannas. Bulls can tip the scales near 2,000 pounds, all muscle and momentum. Their signature armor is the boss, horns fused at the base into a helmet of bone, turning foreheads into battering rams. When trouble finds them, they don't just run, they reorganize into a moving fortress. Painted in shadow black to charcoal brown, the Cape buffalo is sculpted for pushing back. The body is a tank, deep-chested, with a heavy neck and a ridge of muscle along the shoulders. Ears droop like frayed flags, nicked by thorns and old arguments. The horns sweep outward and curl inward, meeting at the boss, a thick, knuckled shield that takes the hit so the brain doesn't. Older bulls wear broader, battle-scarred bosses. Cows carry slimmer arcs, elegant but still formidable. Sparse hair sheds heat, thick skin, and a subcutaneous fat layer, blunt bites and brush. Splayed hooves act like natural snowshoes on mud-soaked floodplains, spreading weight so a half-ton body doesn't sink. The wide muzzle and prehensile lips harvest coarse grasses, while a four-chambered stomach turns tough cellulose into fuel, evolution's blender and battery pack in one. Side-set eyes give panoramic vision. Sound and scent do the rest, reading lions with the breeze. Mud is their armor and their spa, cooled backs, smothered ticks, and a fresh coat for the next round. Buffalo are bulk grazers, mowing through swathes of thatch that daintier eaters ignore. They follow the rain lines, mapping green up across the landscape, and drink often. Water anchors their days. Dawn and dusk are prime time. Cooler air, better grass, fewer flies. Midday brings shade, cud chewing, and a wallow or two that turns skins slick with clay. Oxpeckers hitch rides, picking at ticks and sounding alarms with sudden chatter and wing beats. They move like weather fronts, steady, organized, and impossible to ignore. Trails groove into the earth, highways of hooves that other animals borrow. When danger approaches, the mood flips from graze to guard in seconds. Calves slide inward, mothers close ranks, and the big bulls drift to the edge where the horizon matters most. If a lion tests the line, the answer can arrive at 34 miles per hour with a horn-led opinion. Yes, a buffalo can toss a lion clean off its feet. Sometimes the hunter becomes the cautionary tale. Still, not every day is a duel. Most days are grass, water, and the slow, deliberate choreography of staying alive. This is community with a code. Herds can number from a few dozen to several hundred, even thousands when conditions are right. Cows and their calves form the core, guided by experienced females who remember where water holds out and which crossing points end badly. Bulls orbit, sometimes in bachelor bands, sometimes embedded as living shields. Older bulls, the so-called Daga boys, mudmen, may peel off into small, grumpy clubs near waterholes. They're legends for a reason. Hierarchy among males is settled horn to horn, boss to boss, shoving matches and scything head tosses that test strength without spilling life. Calving follows the reins. Newborns are up on wobbly stilts within minutes, tucked into creches watched by multiple mothers. Communication is a vocabulary of grunts, coughs, and low bellows. A lifted chin or a tail twitch can turn the herd. And when predators make a grab, buffalo do something most prey never dare. They counterattack. They've rescued calves, steamrolled ambushes, and escorted big cats to the exit with unambiguous enthusiasm. As living lawnmowers, buffalo keep grasses trimmed and vigorous, cycling nutrients and shaping plant communities. Hooves aerate soil, dung seeds the next generation of green. Their wallows become rain traps and miniature wetlands, nursery pools for frogs and dragonflies. Oxpeckers and cattle egrets trail them for food and warnings, a mobile ecosystem on the move. They're also a cornerstone of the predator economy, feeding lions and crocodiles when fortune flips. Officially listed as least concern, buffalo still face habitat loss, fences that break migration routes, and diseases like bovine tuberculosis. What protects them best is what defines them: numbers, cohesion, and a boss built like a helmet. In a savage kingdom where survival is negotiated daily, the Cape buffalo is proof that unity can look like power. It embodies resilience, the kind that stands shoulder to shoulder and refuses to blink. The grass is brown as toast. The trees rattle with empty pods, and every hoofprint points to the same shrinking patch of green. In the Ugandan savanna's late-season hush, the eland moves like a quiet heavyweight, calm, deliberate, and built to outlast the rush. When food becomes a rumor, endurance becomes a strategy. And the last meal is a contest you win by staying on your feet. Meet the eland antelope, the largest antelope in Africa. and a master of dry season economics across Uganda's open savannas and bushy hills. It's instantly recognizable by its massive frame, pendulous dewlap, and elegant corkscrew horns that curve skyward like carved ivory. Where impala sprint and scatter, the eland plays the long game. Heat-tolerant, energy-efficient, and tall enough to browse a buffet most others can't reach. Painted the warm fawn of sun-baked grass, the eland carries faint, chalk-white body stripes and a dark ridge along the spine. Subtle brush strokes on a living canvas. Mature bulls deepen in color, with a smudge of bluish-black on the forehead and heavy neck hair that shades and signals strength. Both sexes wear those spiraled horns, long, ridged, and purposeful, tools for defense and pruning, and a visual do not test me sign to would-be challengers. A broad, pendulous dewlap hangs from the chest, not a fashion statement, but a radiator. Extra surface area to shed heat in fierce sun. Listen closely as it walks. That faint tapping is the famous eland knee click, tendons snapping over joints, an accidental metronome that might advertise size and confidence without a fight. Standing up to 1.7 meters at the shoulder, this antelope simply out-talls many competitors, snagging leaves and seed pods beyond reach. Evolution tuned its internal plumbing, too. A powerful rumen breaks down tough, fibrous browse. Kidneys and gut conserve water. Even saliva helps soften woody bites. It's a creature sculpted not for speed, but for stubborn survival. With the surprise party trick of clearing a 2-meter fence when it must. Eland are flexible feeders, part browser, part grazer, sampling acacia leaves, combretum twigs, flowers, fruits, and late-season pods when the lawn is gone. In the dry months, they shift upward, working higher branches and plucking what others can't touch with a long, prehensile tongue and careful lips. Dawn and dusk are their prime hours, when the heat eases and scents carry. The hottest noon belongs to shade, cud, and patience. They'll walk far on a rumor of rain, reading fresh shoots with their noses and tracking distant storms like botanists with hooves. Competition for the last meal isn't a sprint, it's a chess match. While zebras grind the stubble and buffalo muscle into the remaining grass, eland sidestep the crowd and browse the overlooked edges. Predators complicate the schedule. Lions and spotted hyenas test the margins. So eland feed with one eye up and an ear on the wind. If trouble closes in, they pivot from slow elegance to long stride power, horns down, dewlap swinging. They can't match a sprinter, but they can keep going and going, into stonier ground where big cats lose their nerve and footing. These antelopes favor small, loose family parties, females with calves, sometimes linking up into modest bands when food scatters thin. Bulls drift on the periphery or travel in gentlemen's clubs of 2 or 3, meeting and parting with the season's mood. Dominance runs on quiet rituals, lateral displays that show off horn length, slow parallel walks, a few horn clacks, and that steady knee click. Hear this? Big unit coming through. Fights happen, but often posture settles the bill. Calves spend their first weeks hidden and still, mothers parking them in cover and circling back to nurse. Later, they join a nursery group, a daycare with many eyes where one alarm can lift the whole cohort into motion. Cooperation is subtle but constant. Shared vigilance, shared routes to browse stands, and a group memory of safe passages to rugged slopes when lions start drawing maps. Eland are the high-reach gardeners of the savanna. By pruning shrubs and cracking seed pods, they shape woody growth and fairy seeds across long distances in a traveling compost system. Their ability to live on dry, nutrient-poor browse relieves pressure on short grasses when times are lean, smoothing the famine feast cycle for the whole herbivore crowd. They are also key rations for apex predators, stitching energy back up the food web. Globally, the common eland is listed as least concern, but locally they face habitat squeeze, bushmeat snares, and conflict at the edges of farms. Protecting corridors and keeping poaching low lets this quiet giant keep the system resilient. In the season of almost nothing, the eland turns patience into power. It embodies the spirit of quiet persistence, reminding us that among fierce competitors, the last meal often belongs to those who waste the least and climb the highest. Above the acacia canopy, where most browsers can only dream, one animal turns altitude into an art form. Meet the Rothschild giraffe, Uganda's skyscraper with a heartbeat, dining where the air thins and competition drops away like yesterday's gossip. In the golden sprawl of Uganda's savannas, Murchison Falls, Kadipo Valley, and the scattered woodland edges, the Rothschild giraffe commands attention not by roaring, but by simply standing up. Named for the naturalist Lord Walter Rothschild, this subspecies wears its heritage in every tower-high step and every languid, leaf-plucking sweep of its tongue. Its coat is a living mosaic, rich chestnut polygons edged in cream, splashed across legs that end, crucially, without markings below the knee, a signature detail that separates Rothschilds from their cousins. But the real distinction is presence. Where other herbivores jostle at shoulder height, the Rothschild giraffe operates in a league of its own, literally. Standing up to 18 feet tall, this giraffe is engineered like a biological crane, every inch sculpted by the physics of reaching high and living higher. The neck alone stretches 6 to 7 feet, supported by just 7 vertebrae. The same number humans have, only each one is the size of a dinner plate. Muscles cascade down that column like cables on a suspension bridge, anchoring a small, elegant head crowned with horn-like ossicones, skin-covered bone knobs that give males a slightly regal, battle-worn silhouette after years of necking duels. The legs are impossibly long and slender, yet load-bearing marvels, each hoof splayed wide to distribute weight and navigate uneven ground, with a gait that looks like slow-motion poetry. The tail is a whip of coarse hair, perfect for swatting flies or punctuating a mood. But the tongue, oh, the tongue is where evolution really showed off. Nearly 18 inches of prehensile, blue-black muscle, tough enough to strip thorns off acacia branches without flinching, dexterous enough to curl around the choicest shoots like a sommelier selecting vintage leaves. The coat's pattern is more than decoration. It's camouflage and thermoregulation wrapped into one, breaking up the giraffe's outline in dappled light and radiating heat through a network of blood vessels just beneath the skin. Eyes sit high and wide, granting nearly 360-degree vision, while long lashes protect against dust and the occasional thorn ricochet. Every element, from the cardiovascular system that pumps blood uphill against gravity, to the specialized valves that prevent fainting when the head drops to drink, is a testament to survival through sheer vertical advantage. Daylight belongs to the giraffe. Mornings open with a slow, deliberate patrol through acacia groves and mixed woodland, the head swiveling like a periscope, scanning both canopy and horizon. Feeding is the core ritual. Using that extraordinary tongue and flexible lips, the Rothschild giraffe plucks leaves, buds, and seed pods from heights no zebra, buffalo, or even elephant can comfortably access. Acacias are the main course, mimosa, whistling thorn, and umbrella varieties, but the menu adapts: wild apricot, desert date, and whatever the season offers at the top shelf. Thorns are no obstacle. The tongue dances between them, the thick saliva acting as both lubricant and antiseptic. Feeding sessions are long, methodical, and surprisingly social. Giraffes often browse in loose aggregations, not herds in the strict sense, but gatherings of opportunity where half a dozen individuals might share a grove, each claiming a personal feeding zone within earshot. There is little squabbling over food. Height eliminates most competition, so the mood is calm, almost meditative. Between meals, they rest in partial shade, standing upright, occasionally chewing cud like thoughtful philosophers. Sleep is a luxury measured in minutes, taken in short bursts, sometimes lying down with the neck folded back in an S-curve that looks uncomfortable, but is apparently giraffe ergonomics. Drinking is the dramatic exception. To reach ground-level water, a giraffe must splay its front legs wide and lower its neck in a vulnerable, yoga-like stretch. It is here, heads down and balance compromised, that predators see their opening. So giraffes drink fast, gulp hard, and get back up to full height as quickly as biomechanics allow. The rest of the day is spent moving between feeding sites, a nomadic rhythm dictated by leaf quality, water availability, and that unspoken savanna calculus of safety versus sustenance. Rothschild giraffes are fluid socialists. There are no rigid herds, no permanent memberships, just flexible associations that shift like cloud formations. Females and their young form the most stable units, often moving together in groups of 4 to 10, sharing vigilance and calf-rearing duties in a loose, cooperative sisterhood. Bulls are more solitary, drifting in and out of female groups, especially during mating season, when testosterone sharpens the agenda. Dominance among males is settled through necking, not the romantic kind, but full contact sparring, where two bulls stand side by side and swing their necks like medieval flails, heads thudding into ribs, shoulders, and flanks with sounds that echo across the plains. These bouts can last minutes or stretch into prolonged dust-raising contests, but serious injury is rare. It is about establishing rank, not annihilation. The winner earns mating rights, the loser walks off with bruised pride and maybe a limp. Communication is subtle. Giraffes are largely silent, but not mute. Infrasonic calls, below human hearing, ripple through the ground and air, coordinating movement and signaling alarm. Visual cues matter more. Ear position, tail flicks, the angle of the neck all broadcast mood and intent. Calves are born after a 15-month gestation, dropping 6 feet to the ground in a gravity-assisted entrance that would flatten most mammals, but somehow works for giraffes. Within an hour, the newborn is standing. Within a day, it is keeping pace with the group, albeit on wobbly stilts. Mothers are attentive, but not helicopters. They leave calves in creches, supervised clusters watched over by 1 or 2 females, while the others feed nearby. This babysitting rotation works because predators, lions, leopards, hyenas, prefer easier targets. Still, mortality is high in the first year. Those who survive grow fast, fueled by rich milk and an instinct to stay close, stay quiet, and always, always look up. The Rothschild giraffe is a landscape architect working from the top down. By browsing high, it prunes treetops, shaping canopy structure and allowing sunlight to penetrate lower vegetation layers, which feeds everything from grasses to shrubs to insects. This high-altitude grazing reduces competition for ground-level browsers like impala and dik-dik, effectively partitioning the food web by elevation. Their dung is a nutrient bomb, scattering seeds across kilometers of savanna, often in places no other herbivore reaches, aiding forest regeneration and plant diversity. They are also living watchtowers. With vision that spans the horizon and height that grants early warning, giraffes often serve as the savanna's alarm system. When a giraffe stares hard in one direction, every other animal takes note. Evolutionarily, they are marvels of biomechanical problem-solving, cardiovascular adaptations that prevent stroke when bending down, specialized jugular veins with one-way valves, a heart the size of a basketball pumping blood at pressures that would rupture most mammals. Yet, despite these strengths, the Rothschild giraffe is endangered. Habitat loss, poaching for meat and tails, and human-wildlife conflict have slashed populations. In Uganda, conservation efforts in Murchison Falls and translocation programs to new protected areas are slowly stabilizing numbers, but the margin is thin. Every giraffe counts, literally. Monitoring, anti-poaching patrols, and community-led conservation are the scaffolding holding this subspecies upright. In a world where competition for the last meal can turn brutal, the Rothschild giraffe found a loophole. Go higher. It is a reminder that sometimes survival is not about fighting harder, but thinking taller, reaching farther, and claiming the space no one else thought to look. Graceful, vulnerable, and impossibly resilient, this skyscraper with a heartbeat embodies the quiet power of adaptation, proof that in the race for resources, altitude can be the ultimate advantage. When 6,000 kilograms of gray muscle and ancient memory walks toward the last waterhole, every creature on the savanna pays attention. The African elephant doesn't just compete for resources, it rewrites the rules entirely, carving wells from stone, toppling trees like matchsticks, and deciding who drinks and who waits. In Uganda's sprawling grasslands and woodland mosaics, from Murchison Falls to Queen Elizabeth National Park, the African elephant reigns as the ultimate ecosystem engineer. This is the largest land mammal on Earth, a living fortress wrapped in wrinkled gray hide, armed with ivory tusks, and guided by a memory that spans generations. Stand before an adult elephant and the world recalibrates. Bulls can tower over 3 meters at the shoulder and tip the scales past 6 tons. Cows run slightly smaller, but carry the same architectural presence. Their skin, thick as canvas and textured like ancient riverbeds, shifts from charcoal gray to rust red, depending on the dust bath of choice. Nature's sunscreen and parasite repellent rolled into one. Those ears, massive and veined like continent maps, flap not for show but for survival, radiating heat through a network of blood vessels that can drop body temperature by several degrees in minutes. The trunk is evolution's Swiss Army knife, 40,000 muscles working in concert to pluck a single blade of grass, demolish a baobab, or spray a calf with water. It breathes, smells, touches, grasps, and communicates, all while doubling as a snorkel during river crossings. Tusks, elongated incisors that never stop growing, serve as digging tools, weapons, and levers, each pair unique in curve and wear, a biography carved in ivory. Pillar-like legs absorb impact with cushioned foot pads that distribute weight so evenly an elephant can walk across swampland without sinking. And those eyes, small and amber-lit, hold a depth that makes you wonder what centuries of knowledge might look like from the inside. An elephant's day revolves around one relentless equation: 150 to 200 kilograms of vegetation equals survival. They are living lawnmowers with PhDs in botany, selecting grasses, leaves, bark, roots, fruits, and flowers with discerning trunks. Feeding is a 16-hour marathon punctuated by strategic rest, dust baths, and mud wallows that double as social mixers and spa treatments. When the wet season paints the savanna green, elephants roam freely, feasting on abundance and moving in slow, synchronized parades. But when the dry season tightens its fist and water holes shrink to cracked memories, the elephant's genius ignites. They dig. Using tusks as excavators and trunks as shovels, they bore into dry riverbeds, cracking through baked earth to reach underground aquifers. These elephant-engineered wells become communal lifelines. Zebras, warthogs, baboons, and birds all queue for a sip from holes. Only elephants had the strength and knowledge to create. Tree toppling is not vandalism, it's landscape architecture. By pushing over acacias and stripping bark, elephants open the canopy, allowing sunlight to flood the understory and trigger a carpet of fresh grasses. Smaller herbivores, gazelles, impalas, zebras, benefit from this living menu, and the cycle rolls forward. Seeds pass through elephant guts unscathed, encased in nutrient-rich dung that doubles as fertilizer. Germination rates for certain trees spike when elephants are the delivery service. One herd, moving across 50 kilometers, can plant an entire forest without ever meaning to. Elephant society is a matriarchy written in dust and memory. Herds center on an older female, the matriarch, whose decades of experience guide every decision. Which water source to trust, when to migrate, how to read storm clouds on the horizon, and which humans mean harm. She is the librarian of survival, passing down knowledge that cannot be encoded in genes, but only learned through time and trust. Family units are tight-knit clusters of mothers, daughters, sisters, and calves, all moving as one breathing organism. Calves are raised communally. Aunts babysit, older siblings teach, and the herd wraps protectively around the youngest when danger looms. If a calf gets stuck in mud, the entire family stops, strategizes, and digs until freedom is reclaimed. Communication is a symphony played across frequencies. Low-frequency rumbles, felt more than heard, ripple through the ground for kilometers, coordinating movements between distant groups. Trumpets announce alarm or excitement. Ear flaps, tail swishes, and trunk gestures form a body language as nuanced as any spoken word. Bulls leave the herd in adolescence, forming loose bachelor coalitions, or wandering solo, rejoining females only during musth, a hormonally charged state where testosterone surges and aggression spikes. Musth bulls are walking thunderstorms, temporal glands streaming, urine dribbling, tempers short. Other males give them space. Matriarchs assess them with surgical precision. Mating is brief but competitive, and the strongest, most experienced bulls win breeding rights. When an elephant dies, the herd lingers. They touch the bones with their trunks, stand in silence, sometimes returning years later to the same spot. Scientists debate the word mourning, but anyone who has watched this ritual knows elephants remember, and they grieve. Elephants are the savannah's construction crew, pest control, and freight service all at once. By clearing overgrown woodlands, they prevent bush encroachment and maintain the grassland-woodland mosaic that defines Uganda's parks. Fire follows their trails. Predators hunt in the clearings they create. Their dung supports entire insect populations, which in turn feed birds, reptiles, and small mammals. Dung beetles roll elephant offerings into perfectly sculpted spheres, nature's recycling program in motion. During droughts, elephant-dug wells are the difference between survival and mass die-offs for dozens of species. They are keystone engineers, species whose presence holds entire ecosystems together. Remove them, and the structure collapses. Yet adaptation comes at a cost. Poaching has decimated populations across Africa. Uganda's herds are healthier than most, but the scars remain. Tuskless elephants, once rare, are now more common in areas where ivory hunters selected heavily for large tusks, a brutal form of unnatural selection. Human-elephant conflict simmers wherever farms meet migration routes. Crop-raiding elephants can destroy a year's harvest in one night, and communities retaliate with spears, poison, and bullets. Conservation efforts hinge on coexistence, electric fences, chili pepper deterrents, and compensation schemes that reward tolerance instead of revenge. Listed as vulnerable, the African elephant's future balances on a knife edge between protection and pressure, between ancient memory and modern expansion. In a landscape defined by competition for the last meal, the last drink, the last safe corner, the African elephant does not merely survive. It creates space for others to survive alongside it. It is a living monument to resilience, intelligence, and the quiet power of memory, passed from trunk to trunk across generations. To watch an elephant herd move through golden light is to witness the savannah's heartbeat made visible, slow and unstoppable, carrying the weight of the world with grace that defies gravity. Dawn runs a hot finger across the savannah, and the painted wolves wake as one. Ears like satellite dishes, eyes bright with purpose, they don't stalk in silence, they storm with strategy. In this savage kingdom, survival isn't about lone heroics, it's about the pack that refuses to quit. Meet the African wild dog, the painted wolf of Africa's grasslands and light woodlands. Weighing around 66 pounds, with rounded ears and a patchwork coat no two dogs share, it looks like a creature painted by accident and perfected by endurance. It lacks a lion's bulk or a cheetah's burst, but it carries a more dangerous weapon: relentless cooperation. This hunter is sculpted by evolution for the long game. Slim and long-legged, with a deep chest that houses powerful lungs, it's built to turn miles into moments. Each coat is a one-of-a-kind gallery of ochres, blacks, and whites. That chaos of color acts like visual static, scrambling edges when the grass starts to fly. The ears, wide, round, always swiveling, are heat radiators and precision receivers, cooling the body while triangulating the faintest rustle. A white-tipped tail flags through tall grass, a living baton to keep the team in sync. Look down at those feet. 4 toes, no dew claws. It's not a fashion statement. It's weight saved and snag risk reduced for long-distance efficiency. Short, sparse fur sheds heat fast. Tough pads and springy tendons turn rough ground into a running track. The jaw isn't lion strong, but combined with numbers, it becomes exactly what it needs to be: effective. Every angle says the same thing: not a sprinter, a finisher. Their day begins with a rally. The pack gathers in a whirl of tail wags, muzzle kisses, squeaky chirps, and yes, those famous sneeze votes that seem to settle the question: hunt now or later? It looks like a party. It's actually logistics. At first light and again near dusk, they fan out, reading tracks and wind, then morph into a moving machine. Unlike the explosive ambushes of cats, wild dogs wage a marathon. They pressure impala, gazelles, and other mid-sized antelopes over distance, rotating runners to keep the pace hot and the prey tired. One flanks, another drives, a third anticipates the turn. A chase becomes choreography. Success can reach a staggering 70 to 80%, numbers most predators would tattoo on their souls. When the moment breaks, the takedown is swift and coordinated. They feed immediately, sometimes while the prey is still painfully alive. Not cruelty, but strategy against hyenas and lions that would steal everything if given time. By midday, heat pushes them into shade. Play fights and grooming knit bonds. Sentinels keep watch. And if pups are at a den, a rotating babysitter stays behind, the unsung hero of every hunt. This is a society that runs on respect rather than fear. An alpha pair leads, typically the only breeders, while brothers and sisters, many related, some adopted through dispersal, become a staff of expert aunties and uncles. Packs can swell past 20, and roles emerge not as rigid ranks, but as talents. The flanker with razor turns, the anchor with iron stamina, the scout who reads wind like a map. Communication is constant. Trills, twitters, soft whines, and that white tail held high to signal direction in chaos. After a successful hunt, the altruism is undeniable. Pups eat first. Injured or elderly members get priority too, as healthy hunters voluntarily regurgitate meat for those who stayed behind. Babysitters shield pups from eagles and jackals. The whole pack relocates when danger maps their den. When youngsters grow, single-sex groups disperse to find mates and start new packs, spreading not just genes, but a culture of cooperation. Painted wolves are the precision editors of the plains. By favoring weak, sick, or unwary prey, they help keep herbivore populations healthy and moving, trimming disease and shaping where grasslands recover. Their swift feeding leaves clean leftovers for vultures and jackals, turning one kill into a feast for many. They den in old aardvark burrows, recycling architecture like pros. But their world squeezes. Lions and hyenas wage constant turf wars. Snares and roads cut corridors. Disease, rabies, distemper can scythe through entire packs. They're globally endangered, and their greatest adaptation, cooperation, now needs a partner. Ours. In a land that can be merciless, the painted wolf proves that the fiercest weapon is a family that runs together. Brutal in the chase, tender in the circle, they embody the spirit of survival through unity.
On a rocky kopje above the scorched plains, something watches everything. Not a predator with fangs, something smarter. Eyes that calculate, hands that build, voices that carry politics and danger warnings in the same breath. The olive baboon of the Serengeti Mara has no venom, no camouflage, no blinding speed, and it doesn't need any. It has something rarer out here. Intelligence worn like armor. Meet the olive baboon, one of Africa's most widespread and adaptable primates. Ranging from the Serengeti's open grasslands to the dense woodlands of the Mara River corridor, They thrive in landscapes that would exhaust specialists. Adults weigh up to 30 kilograms. Males wear a thick, shaggy mane of olive gray fur and carry canine teeth longer than a leopard's. Females are lighter, leaner, and run the social world. That dog-like muzzle, heavy and long, houses scent glands, jaw muscles, and a set of teeth that double as tools and weapons. Dark, intelligent eyes sit close set under a heavy brow that furrows like a general reading a battlefield. Hands are almost human in their precision, opposable thumbs that peel bark, crack acorns, lift stones, and hold infants with equal delicacy. A bare, colorful rump signals social status and reproductive condition without a single word. Thick skin on the sitting pads means they can rest on thorny branches and rocky ledges where softer animals can't follow. This is a body built for a generalist life in a world that punishes inflexibility. Baboons don't specialize, they improvise. By dawn, a troop descends from its sleeping trees and spreads across the plains like a small, loud army. They dig for roots and tubers when the rains fail, pluck figs and berries when trees give, raid bird nests for eggs, flip rocks for scorpions, beetles, and grubs. They will chase down a young gazelle or vervet monkey when the opportunity presents itself. A hunt that is coordinated, fast, and surprisingly ruthless. Males can take a full-grown impala fawn, shoulder it, and carry it back to the group before a lion has time to react. Their diet is a 40-item menu written in chalk, always subject to revision. Water smart, they can survive in semi-arid country by reading dry riverbeds, digging shallow wells with cupped hands where others see only cracked mud. Predators are the constant tax. Leopards are their oldest enemy, hunting at night and from above. A large male baboon is a genuine threat in return, and leopard hunts on baboon troops sometimes end with the leopard retreating. Lions occasionally press in, but 100 screaming primates throwing rocks and standing their ground is a calculation that even lions sometimes decline. Martial eagles drop from height for juveniles. Baboons answer with mobbing and alarm calls that cascade through the troop in seconds. In this savage kingdom, brains are social. A baboon troop, anywhere from 20 to 200 strong, is not a mob. It's a republic with memory. Female lineages anchor the group. A daughter inherits her mother's rank. Sisters back each other in disputes. Old females remember waterholes not used in 10 years and lead the troop there when drought tightens. Males arrive from outside, working their way up through coalition politics, grooming powerful allies, tolerating infants to signal peaceable intentions, then challenging above them one rung at a time. Rank is currency. Higher-ranking males eat first, mate more often, and get groomed longest. But raw size isn't everything. A smaller male with the right friends can outcompete a larger rival who burned his bridges. It's chess played in fur, and every player studies the board every waking hour. Grooming is the currency of trust. Fingers parting fur, removing parasites, lowering heart rates. Research shows that females with more grooming partners lose fewer infants to predators. Social bonds are literally life insurance. Infants are born black, an advertisement that triggers care from almost every adult in the group. Even gruff males carry the small dark bundles, offering them as social shields when approaching dominant rivals. The troop communicates in a rich vocabulary, at least 30 distinct vocalizations, From the soft, two-phased grunt that says all clear to the explosive wahoo bark that says leopard now, run. Facial expressions mirror those of humans. A lip smack means friendliness. A yawn shows those canines and means back off. A fear grimace is submission. They understand the alarm calls of vervet monkeys and starlings, eavesdropping on neighbors' intelligence as casually as checking the news. Baboons are engineers of small disruptions that add up to large effects. Their digging aerates soil and exposes buried seeds to light. Their dung deposits scatter germinated seeds miles from the parent tree, making them important dispersers for dozens of plant species. By raiding crops on the savanna's edge, they draw conflict with humans, a pressure that is growing as farmland fingers deeper into wild quarters. They are prey for leopards, lions, crocodiles at river crossings, and large eagles, feeding the full pyramid. Habitat loss, snaring, and retaliatory killing chip at their numbers in fragmented landscapes, though the olive baboon remains listed as least concern across most of its range. Where wilderness is intact and human pressure is managed, they persist and even expand, the ultimate proof that intelligence and adaptability can write a longer story than any single specialization. In a land where survival usually belongs to the fastest, the most venomous, or the most massive, the baboon earns its place by being the most aware. It embodies something the savage kingdom rarely advertises, that knowing your world, who is hungry, who can be trusted, where the water hides, can outrun claws on any given day. The baboon doesn't just survive the savage kingdom, it reads it.
Dust hangs in the evening heat as the lions of Uganda step from the grass like living embers. Ahead, a wall of Cape buffalo lowers its horns, and the savanna holds its breath. This is the competition for the last meal: strategy versus muscle, patience versus thunder. We're with the African lion, Panthera leo, across Uganda's open plains, places like Murchison and Kadipo, where grass waves, nerves fray, and decisions decide who eats. The lion is Africa's only truly social big cat, a hunter that trades solitude for teamwork. One look sets it apart: the male's mane, a storm cloud of hair; the lioness, sleek and purposeful, every line built for the job at hand. Painted in tawny gold that mirrors dry grass, the lion is sculpted like a sprinter who learned to wrestle. The forequarters are heavy with muscle, the shoulders lifted, the neck thick, perfect for grappling prey that fights back. Padded paws move like whispers. Retractable claws stay needle-sharp until the moment they hook into hide. A dew claw on the forepaw works like a grappling hook during takedowns. The male's mane is more than a crown, thick hair that blunts horn thrusts and advertises strength. Darker manes often signal maturity and resilience. Eyes burn amber in daylight, then bloom with night vision after dusk, thanks to a reflective tapetum lucidum. It's like carrying a built-in moonlight amplifier. Whisker spots map unique IDs, a social barcode for pride life. Inside the mouth, backward-facing papillae on the tongue rasp meat off bone like nature's grater. A flexible spine and long stride deliver short, explosive sprints. No marathoner here, just a ruthless 60-meter specialist. Heat is a constant opponent, so lions pant, seek shade, and hunt the cool margins of day and night to keep those engines primed. Lions are crepuscular by design. The world between sunset and starlight is their office. When buffalo are the target, the pride reads wind and terrain like a playbook. Lionesses spread in a crescent, some to flank, one to trigger the chase, another to cut off the exit. They aim to separate a calf, a tired cow, or a bull that has strayed, because one wrong step against the full herd can be disaster. If opportunity flares, they surge. Forelimbs latch, bodies pile on, and a lioness clamps the muzzle or nose to suffocate, while others anchor the hindquarters. But the battlefield bites back. Buffalo wheel into a living fortress, calves inside, horns out. A countercharge can toss a full-grown lion skyward, all roar and dust. When a kill lands, a second competition begins. Hyenas test the edges, vultures spiral down like impatient umbrellas, and even jackals scout for scraps. The pride drags the carcass to cover, eats fast and defends harder, gulping tens of pounds in a sitting, then cooling off in the grass with bellies like drumheads, knowing the night still keeps score. A pride is family with a job description. Lionesses are the core, sisters, mothers, daughters who hunt together and raise cubs in creches. Males, often in coalitions of 2 to 4 brothers, hold the territory and act as bouncers at the buffet, defending kills from hyenas and rival lions. There's a feeding order, adult males first, then lionesses, then cubs, though mothers will bulldoze etiquette to get milk into hungry mouths. Communication hums through the pride, head rubs that swap scent, chirps and grunts that keep formation, and roars that roll across miles, staking a claim without lifting a paw. New males mean danger for cubs. In a harsh calculus, takeovers can bring infanticide, followed by a rush to mate and reset the pride's future. Through it all, cooperation is currency, and a well-oiled pride can pull off the kind of buffalo takedown that solo cats only dream about. Lions are regulators, shaping where herds graze and which animals thrive. By targeting the weak, the sick, and the unlucky, They trim populations and keep disease in check. Their kills power an entire after-party of scavengers, hyenas, vultures, beetles, and the soil itself. Cooperative hunting is their superpower, an evolutionary bet that pays off against giant prey. Yet they walk a narrowing path. Human-wildlife conflict, snares, and shrinking habitat press their numbers. Listed as vulnerable, they survive where protected corridors, community support, and vigilant rangers hold the line. In the hush before the charge and the clash after the kill, the lion embodies nerve, unity, and necessity. It's a living reminder that in the wild, the last meal is never guaranteed, and that's exactly what keeps the savannah alive. Late light leaks across the Ugandan savannah, and the grass turns to copper wire. A warthog drops to its knees like a polite diner, saying, "Grace, racing the dusk for one last bite." Hyenas stir, baboons chatter from the fringes, and the clock runs fast. In this heat-baked arena, the final mouthful is a contest you either win or outrun. Meet the African warthog of Uganda's open plains and light woodlands, from dusty flats to scattered thorn scrub. Stocky, scarred, and utterly unembarrassed, it looks like a pig that welded armor onto itself. You'll know it by the face shields, the warts, and those sweeping tusks. But its signature move is stranger. It grazes on its knees, turning dinner into a low, efficient operation. Painted by necessity rather than fashion, the warthog wears dark, leathery skin and a coarse, bristle mane that rises like a mohawk when adrenaline sparks. Boars can top 100 kilograms, thick through the shoulders, with a neck like a battering ram and a flat, muscular snout made for plowing into reluctant earth. The facial warts are actually bony pads under tough skin, cheek shields that absorb impact when males fence head to head. 2 pairs of tusks curl from the jaws, elegant upper crescents for display and defense, and shorter razor-edged lowers that do the real cutting in a pinch. Eyes sit high and wide, a periscope above the grass, while the ears swivel like little satellite dishes reading the gossip the wind is spreading. Sparse hair and that dark hide shed heat and resist thorns. Calloused pads on the wrists explain the kneel grazing trick, keeping energy use low and the snout perfectly aligned with short grass. Evolution sculpted this body for the savannah's contradictions: brutal sun, hard soil, and the urgent need to be both bulldozer and sprinter. By day, the warthog is a practical forager, a specialist in tough menus others skip. Short grasses, gnarly roots, tubers, fallen marula, a snack of beetles or grubs. If it can be sniffed, dug, and chewed, it's worth the effort. That kneeling posture turns the jaw into a lawnmower, trimming swords that zebras leave behind. When the dry season pinches and the pantry thins, the warthog's snout becomes a backhoe, breaking crusted earth to reach bulbs no one else can touch. Competition for the last meal is not just a metaphor here. At day's end, you'll see baboons inching closer to the same patch of tender grass, antelope nosing in, and a hyena skirting the edge, all weighing the risk of lingering. The warthog knows the schedule too. It feeds hardest in the cool morning and late afternoon, then hesitates. One more mouthful or the safety of a burrow. Occasionally, to top up minerals, it will even gnaw a sun-bleached bone, a surprising piggy habit in a place where calcium is as scarce as shade. When alarm flares, lion, leopard, or that eerie hyena giggle, the tail pops straight up like a flag, and the trot becomes a zigzag sprint. If trapped, the warthog spins, lowers its head, and becomes a set of opinions with knives. Community, for warthogs, is a tool. Females and their young form sounders, tight, cooperative squads that share vigilance and babysitting around favorite burrows, often ones renovated from aardvark architecture. They reverse park at night, tusks out, an attitude at the door that says, "Try us." Piglets arrive after about 5 to 6 months of gestation, striped and already equipped with hurry. Creches sometimes form, a piglet playgroup guarded by a no-nonsense mother who can pivot from feeding to full fury in a heartbeat. Adult males live solo or in loose bachelor clubs, visiting when mating season stirs the air. Their duels are armored shoving matches where those facial warts really earn their keep. Communication is all grunts, snorts, and tail semaphore, subtle shifts that say spread out, bunch up, or we run now. Even cooperation has limits in the dinner rush. A dominant sow will shoulder her way to the best tuft, and juniors learn to read the room or get nudged aside. Think of the warthog as the savanna's rough-handed gardener. Its digging aerates soil, plants seeds, and helps rain infiltrate hardpan. By mowing coarse grasses down to tender regrowth, it paves the way for antelope to feed behind it. Abandoned burrows become housing for mongooses, jackals, even owls. Occasionally, a warthog will sprawl for a spa day with banded mongooses, letting them pick off ticks. Mutualism with benefits. Listed as least concern, warthogs still run a gauntlet of snares, habitat squeeze, and fast-moving diseases. Their counter is adaptability. Shift feeding times, kneel when others tire, dig deeper when the pantry says empty. In the last light, when every creature is bargaining for one more bite, the warthog keeps winning with grit, timing, and a good exit plan. It embodies the spirit of Uganda's wild, brave when cornered, humble when smart, and always ready to make the most of a hard-earned meal. When the last green blade on the savanna becomes currency, one antelope turns survival into a spectator sport. Meet the topi, part sentinel, part sprinter, and entirely too good at making competitors nervous. Across Uganda's sun-scorched plains, from the wide-open theater of Kidipo Valley to the rolling grasslands of Murchison Falls, the topi commands attention without asking for it. Standing tall on termite mounds like a general surveying the field, this hartebeest, yes, that's its other name, and yes, it fits, wears a coat the color of rust and old leather, a deep reddish-brown that catches the light and turns to bronze when the dust rises. The shoulders are darker, almost purple in shadow, while the face carries bold charcoal streaks that frame alert, wide-set eyes. Both males and females sport those elegant lyre-shaped horns, ribbed and curved like calligraphy written in bone. But what truly sets the topi apart is not just beauty, it's posture. While other grazers hunch and nibble, the topi stands upright, head high, as if expecting applause or predators, whichever comes first. Sculpted by evolution for endurance and efficiency, the topi is built like a distance runner with a radar system. The body is sleek but powerful, long-legged and narrow through the chest, designed to cover ground without wasting energy. That reddish coat is short and glossy, shedding heat fast under the relentless sun, while darker patches on the shoulders, thighs, and face create natural contouring that breaks up the animal's outline in tall grass. Camouflage painted by nature's own hand. The legs taper into slim ankles and hard hooves, engineered for traction on baked earth and muddy floodplains alike. Those horns, rising in smooth, backward-sweeping arcs, are not just ornamental. They're status symbols, sparring tools, and conversation starters all at once. Males use them in ritualized pushing matches that settle disputes without spilling blood, though the occasional clash leaves scars that tell their own stories. The eyes sit high on the skull, offering nearly 360-degree vision, a critical adaptation when lions, hyenas, and leopards Write the daily schedule. The topi's preorbital glands secrete a dark, sticky substance used to mark territory on grass stems and termite mounds, a chemical signature that says, "I was here and I'll be back." Ears swivel independently, tuning into the savanna's frequency, the rustle of a predator, the alarm snort of a neighbor, the distant rumble of thunder promising fresh grazing. Every feature is a tool, and every tool is in constant use. Topis are picky eaters in a landscape where pickiness is a luxury most can't afford. They prefer the freshest, greenest grass shoots, the kind that sprout after rain and vanish within days. This selective grazing forces them into a nomadic rhythm, following moisture and new growth across shifting mosaics of savanna and floodplain. When the rains arrive, topis converge on lush patches like shoppers at a flash sale, heads down, jaws working steadily. But as the dry season tightens its grip and the grass turns to straw, they switch strategies, grazing longer hours, traveling farther, and tolerating tougher, less nutritious forage. They feed most actively in the early morning and late afternoon, avoiding the midday furnace when shade is scarce and energy expenditure climbs. During peak heat, topis rest near water sources or under isolated acacia trees, chewing cud and scanning the horizon in shifts. Their feeding style is methodical: bite, chew, step, scan, repeat. Every few seconds, a head lifts, ears rotate, and the landscape gets reassessed. Speed is their trump card. When danger registers, a hyena's silhouette, a lion's scent on the wind, the topi doesn't debate. It runs, and it runs fast, hitting speeds near 70 kilometers per hour in short bursts, with stamina that outlasts most predators over distance. The sprint often ends on high ground, a termite mound or ridge where the topi can pause, reassess, and broadcast its success with a defiant snort. That high ground habit is signature topi behavior, a combination of lookout duty and territorial display. Dominant males claim the best mounds, standing like statues for hours, advertising their presence to rivals and potential mates alike. It's exhausting, exposed, and deeply strategic, because in a world where resources are scarce and competitors are many, visibility is power. Topis are social but fluid, forming groups that shift size and composition depending on season, food availability, and predator pressure. During the wet season, when grass is abundant, they gather in loose aggregations of dozens or even hundreds, a temporary democracy of grazers. But as resources tighten, the structure fractures into smaller, more competitive units: territorial males, female herds, bachelor coalitions. Dominant males establish territories during the breeding season, claiming patches of prime grazing and defending them with horn displays, scent marking, and ritualized sparring. These territories are not large, sometimes just a few 100 meters across, but they're packed with value: fresh grass, water access, and visibility. Males stand sentinel on their mounds, advertising their status with posture alone, head high, horns tilted, a living billboard that says, "This land is mine, and so is the attention." Rivals test boundaries with slow approaches and stiff-legged displays, escalating to horn-locking duels only when intimidation fails. Most contests are brief, settled by strength, stamina, or sheer stubbornness. The loser retreats. The winner returns to his mound, often immediately marking the ground with his preorbital glands, a chemical signature that reinforces the claim. Females move through these territories in small herds, grazing, evaluating, and occasionally pausing to mate with a resident male if his resources and genes measure up. Motherhood among taupus is low-key but attentive. Gestation lasts about 8 months, and calves are born in the wet season when cover and forage are plentiful. Newborns lie motionless in tall grass for the first few days, visited periodically by their mothers to nurse, a hiding strategy that reduces detection by predators. Within a week, calves are strong enough to follow the herd, though they stay close to their mothers and other females who collectively watch for danger. Bachelor groups, made up of young males and territorial rejects, roam the fringes, grazing where they can, sparring for practice, and waiting for their chance to claim a mound and a mate. Communication among taupes is multi-layered. Snorts signal alarm, head tosses and tail flicks convey irritation, and scent marks deliver slow-release messages about identity, status, and intent. Cooperation is subtle but real. When one taupe spots danger and bolts, the rest follow without debate. Survival here is a group project, even when the rewards are distributed unevenly. Taupes are ecosystem engineers in a landscape where every bite matters. Their selective grazing trims the tallest, coarsest grasses, opening up sightlines and creating micro-habitats for shorter species like Thompson's gazelles and warthogs. Where topis feed, diversity follows. Their dung fertilizes the soil, delivering nutrients that fuel new growth cycles, and their movements distribute seeds across kilometers, planting tomorrow's pastures with every step. They are also key prey for Uganda's top predators: lions, hyenas, leopards, and wild dogs, supporting food webs that ripple through the entire savanna. Their constant vigilance and alarm behavior benefit other grazers. When a topi runs, everyone pays attention. Evolutionarily, topis are fine-tuned for marginal environments. Their ability to thrive on older, less nutritious grasses lets them occupy niches other herbivores avoid, reducing direct competition and spreading grazing pressure across the landscape. Their speed and endurance are evolutionary responses to predation, refined over millennia into a survival package that works. Most of the time. Listed as vulnerable globally, topis face habitat loss, competition with livestock, and poaching pressure. Though Uganda's protected parks provide critical strongholds. In places like Kidipo and Murchison Falls, anti-poaching patrols, habitat management, and community conservation programs offer hope that these elegant sentinels will continue to grace the plains for generations to come. In a land where the last meal is always contested and the horizon never rests, the topi is a living reminder that survival is equal parts speed, strategy, and standing tall when it counts. It embodies the spirit of the savanna itself, alert, adaptive, and always ready to run toward the next patch of green. The grass is brittle, the wind is hot, and the last green patch has a waiting list. In the shimmer of Uganda's grasslands, an impala lifts its head and calculates the odds. One more mouthful before the zebras drift in. One more bite before the leopard decides to rewrite the script. Meet the impala, the elegant mixed feeder of East Africa's savannas, from Uganda's open grasslands to light acacia woodlands. Recognizable by a rich russet coat and, in males, sweeping lyre-shaped horns, this antelope turns survival into choreography. When danger presses, the impala doesn't just run, it explodes into gravity-defying leaps that make panic look like performance art. Painted by nature in copper and cream, the impala wears a white belly, a flag-bright tail, and bold black streaks down the rump. Males carry polished horns that curve and twist like carved ebony, up to nearly 3 feet long, ridged for grip during jousts. A sleek, spring steel body sits on fine, elastic legs. Inside those legs, long tendons act like natural shock cords, storing and releasing energy to power 10-meter bounds and 3-meter sky bursts. Big radar dish ears swivel constantly, while high-set eyes offer a panoramic view, predator detection built into face design. Look closer at the hind legs and you'll spot the black brushes, tufts covering metatarsal scent glands. Those tiny cologne dispensers lay down invisible breadcrumbs that help the herd stay connected as it zigzags through tall grass. Cloven hooves spread on impact for grip, then narrow for speed. A slim neck and narrow muzzle thread between thorns to pluck tender leaves other grazers can't reach. Every curve, color, and line on the impala is sculpted by heat, speed, and the need to see trouble coming before trouble sees them. Impalas are opportunistic diners with 2 menus. In the wet season, they graze, heads down, mowing young grasses like polite lawn services. In the dry months, when the lawn browns out, they switch to browsing, nibbling fresh shoots, seed pods, and acacia leaflets. They'll even stand on hind legs to reach higher snacks, a quick impression of a ballerina with hooves. Water anchors their map. They drink regularly, so mornings and late afternoons are commutes between feeding grounds and waterholes. Those waterholes are also the savanna's busiest food courts, and its riskiest. When grass thins, competition for the last meal becomes the day's agenda. Zebras bully with shoulders, warthogs cut in line, and baboons throw opinions. Impalas answer with timing. Short, nervous bursts of feeding, then a freeze, then a glide to the next tuft. A sudden snort snaps the group to attention. If danger breaks the surface, a leopard unzipping the shade, the herd detonates into high jumps called pronks. They bounce, twist mid-air, and kick their heels, flashing white tails and confusing a predator's eye like living confetti. At night, they keep to open areas where something sneaking up has to work harder. Community is the impala's insurance plan. Most females travel in breeding herds, dozens strong, led by experience rather than ego. Males divide into 2 categories: bachelors, cool, aloof, pretending they don't care, and territorial males who very much do. In the rut, which follows the rains, a dominant ram stakes out a prime patch of habitat and gathers a harem. His playlist is grunts, roars, and snorts, surprisingly deep for such a slender throat, and his days become a whirlwind of boundary patrols, horn posturing, and referee duty. Fights are formal, head-down shoves, horn-to-horn wrestling, dust, pause, repeat. Females synchronize births so that many fawns arrive within a short window, flooding the neighborhood with tiny, wobbly targets and improving survival odds. Newborns hide in cover, meeting mom for quick nursing sessions until they're steady enough to join the group daycare. Grooming is social glue. Impalas alligroom like friends fixing each other's hair, and oxpeckers ride along, picking parasites, free spa service in exchange for a perch. Impalas are the gold standard middleweight in the savanna food web, vital prey for leopards, wild dogs, cheetahs, lions, and even big pythons near water. Their mixed feeding habits trim grasses early, then lightly prune shrubs, steering how the plant community grows back after droughts and fire. Seeds hitchhike in fur or pass through to sprout elsewhere, a quiet landscaping service across the plains. Scent marking with preorbital and leg glands maps social space without constant fighting. Listed as least concern. Overall, impalas still feel the squeeze where habitat fragments and snares haunt water corridors. Protected areas in Uganda keep their lines unbroken. In a season when every mouthful matters, the impala is grace under pressure, a symbol of balance, speed, and smart timing. It reminds us that in the wild, elegance isn't a luxury. It's a way to make it to the next patch of green. Night squeezes the riverbanks thin, and the grass becomes currency. A hippopotamus heaves from the white Nile like a gray submarine, eyes shining, jaws ready for business. Before dawn shuts the buffet, every mouthful matters. This is competition for the last meal. Meet the hippopotamus of Uganda's calm rivers and lakes, massive, water-wired, and famously misunderstood. In the Kazinga Channel or along the White Nile, pods, often called colonies locally, lounge by day, then rise as one when darkness cools the land. It looks slow, but do not be fooled. A hippo can sprint at around 30 kilometers per hour on land and move through water with startling force, making it one of Africa's most territorial and dangerous giants. Painted in slate gray and chocolate brown, the hippo is a barrel of muscle on stumpy, piston legs. Evolution's amphibious tank. Eyes, ears, and nostrils sit high on its skull like periscopes, letting the animal stay mostly submerged while scanning the world above. The nostrils seal, the ears clamp, and that dense body walks the riverbed rather than truly swimming, a bottom gallop powered by heavy bones that act like ballast. skin, up to centimeters thick, is nearly hairless and constantly sweats a pinkish fluid, nature's built-in sunscreen and antibacterial film, the so-called blood sweat that prevents sunburn and infection. And then there is the mouth, a 150-degree hinge armed with chiseling incisors and saber-long canines, the famous tusks, capable of carving through reeds, rivals, or any mistake that gets too close. Wide lips mow grass low like a living lawn cutter. A stout tail flicks like a paintbrush when marking territory. Everything here is engineered for a life between heat and water, cool by day, graze by night, and defend the precious channel in between. Daylight is for soaking, dozing, and social politics in the shallows. But when the sun dissolves, the pod rises and files out along hippo highways, polished trails through reeds and scrub to feed. A healthy adult can crop up to 40 kilograms of grass in a single night, mostly short, tender blades. They graze with heads down, sweeping side to side, moving surprisingly fast between patches. When grass thins during the dry season, the competition sharpens. Individuals push farther from the water, sometimes several kilometers, timing their return before sunrise to avoid overheating. That last meal before dawn turns tense, shoulders bump, ears flick, and a wide-mouthed yawn blooms in the half-light, a warning display that says, "This patch is mine." On land, hippos are generally less territorial, but at the water's edge, the rules harden. A stranger blocking the path or a rival shortcutting to the river can trigger a low rumble, a dung shower boundary mark, or, if all else fails, a bone-rattling charge. Calm one moment, explosive the next. Because in hippo math, full belly plus safe water equals survival. Hippo society gathers under a dominant bull who claims a stretch of river like a landlord with very sharp keys. Females and their calves form the core, with subadult males orbiting the edges, reading the room carefully. Most disputes are solved with theater, gaping, grunting, and side-by-side sizing, because real fights are costly and leave scars you can count from a boat. Mothers keep calves tucked along their flanks, boosting them to breathe when the shallows deepen, and sometimes parking them in loose nurseries where a few vigilant cows babysit. Communication is constant. Wheeze honks echo across the water. Underwater rumbles travel like secret messages through bone and riverbed. Come feeding time. Departures and returns feel synchronized, cohesion that reduces chaos on narrow trails. But scarcity frays patience. In drought, resting spots shrink, and bulls police access like gatekeepers. That last mouthful of sweet grass can spark a domino of shoves and splashes when everyone tries to beat the dawn. Hippos are nutrient engines. Their nightly grazing and daily dung ferries move fertilizing pulses from land to water, feeding algae, insects, and ultimately fish, a nutrient conveyor that supports entire food webs. Hippo paths shape wetlands. Their wallows carve micro-habitats for birds and amphibians. Adults face few predators, though calves may fall to lions, hyenas, or crocodiles. The greatest threats are drought, habitat squeeze, and conflict with people along rivers. Though still common in protected Ugandan waters, the species is globally vulnerable, and its future depends on healthy waterways and space to graze. In the hush before sunrise, when the grass is short and the stakes are high, the hippo embodies quiet urgency, power tempered by routine. It is a symbol of how survival in the wild can be decided not by a chase, but by who wins the last bite. The sun drops low, bleeding orange across Uganda's Ishasha plains, and the air turns sharp with that electric quiet that comes before something breaks. Shadows stretch long. Dust hangs like smoke. At the base of an ancient fig tree, a Cape buffalo lies still, flanks no longer rising, eyes clouded over. Old age, injury, illness doesn't matter now. What matters is that death has rung the dinner bell, and every hunter within a mile has heard it. First to arrive, the lions. A coalition of 3 males, manes thick with thorns and old scars, stride in with the kind of confidence that comes from owning the night. They circle the carcass once, sniffing, checking for traps, then settle in with heavy paws and tearing jaws. Ribs crack, meat pulls. For a few minutes it's theirs, no questions asked, but the savannah doesn't do solo acts for long. Hyenas materialize from the grass like shadows with teeth. One, 2, 5, 8. A clan builds in real time, circling wide, voices rising in that eerie, laughing yodel that sounds like madness but functions like code. They test the lion's patience, darting in, snapping at haunches, retreating before claws connect. The lions roar, low and guttural, but the hyenas don't flinch. They know the math. 3 lions, 8 hyenas. Patience is strategy. Then the sky weighs in. Vultures drop from thermals like falling anchors, lappet-faced, white-backed, hooded, landing in a feathered riot around the perimeter. They don't challenge the lions, not directly, but they edge closer with each distraction, necks craning, beaks ready. A jackal slips in from the bush, low and fast, snatching a scrap and vanishing before anyone notices. A marabou stork lands with a prehistoric thud, bald head bobbing, waiting for its turn at the table. The lions feed hard and fast, but hyenas are built for endurance, not pride. They press closer. One darts in and clamps onto a hind leg, dragging it sideways. A lioness lunges, but two more hyenas hit from the other side. It's not a fight, it's a siege. The males snarl, swipe, and finally, grudgingly, step back. The hyenas pour in like a flood, jaws snapping, bone crunching, voices rising in a cacophony of claim and conquest. Vultures descend en masse now, wings colliding, beaks stabbing at scraps in the dirt. The marabou wades through the chaos like a nightmare guest at a feast, plucking bits with surgical precision. A monitor lizard slides in from the grass, tongue flicking, eyes cold, eating what even the vultures won't touch. Above, fish eagles and tawny eagles circle, waiting for the leftovers to thin out so they can swoop in without getting trampled. By the time the hyenas retreat, bellies dragging, the carcass is picked nearly clean. Vultures squabble over hide and sinew. Jackals return for bone marrow. Beetles and flies claim the rest. Within hours, the buffalo that once weighed 800 kilograms is reduced to stains in the dirt and calcium for the soil. Nothing is wasted. Every calorie finds a stomach. Every struggle feeds the next sunrise. This is not cruelty. This is efficiency. This is the wild's economy, brutal and beautiful, where every species plays its part. Apex predators, scavengers, opportunists, decomposers, and the system hums because no one skips a shift. Lions bring the power, hyenas bring the numbers, vultures bring the cleanup crew, jackals bring the speed. And the land, scarred and dusty and endlessly patient, brings them all together under the same indifferent sky. We have journeyed across Uganda's plains and forests, watched elephants guard waterholes, lions negotiate thrones, and entire ecosystems turn on a single carcass. We have seen majesty and desperation exist in the same breath, survival measured not in years, but in heartbeats and split-second decisions. Every creature here, predator, prey, scavenger, is part of one living, breathing equation that balances itself every single day. Our role? Keep that equation intact. Protect the corridors. Fund the rangers. Support the communities who live alongside these animals and understand that their survival is tied to the wild's survival. Because when a lion loses its range, when a hyena clan is poisoned over livestock conflict, when vultures vanish because of poisoned bait, the whole system fractures, and fractures become collapses. If this scene gripped you, if you felt the tension, the hunger, the raw truth of it all, hit like, subscribe, and drop a comment telling us which scavenger you respect most and where you're watching from. Share this with someone who needs to see how nature handles competition without boardrooms or mercy. Our episode ends here, but the wild does not. Its stories, fierce and relentless and heartbreakingly beautiful, continue in every thicket, every termite mound, every bloody sunrise across Uganda's untamed lands. The journey into the heart of survival has only just begun.